Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Parents Engaging Parents Beloved Community Check-In. My name is Erica Beverett, and I am here from Mount Laurel, New Jersey, checking in on best practices with police encounters with criminal defense attorney Daryl Pennington, and he's going to be joining us in a few. So, of course, PEP's mission is to promote civic awareness and proactive community advocacy based on the interest of parents and community. So welcome, everybody. And I'm going to bring to the panel we have with us Aisha Boyd.
Good evening, everyone. This is such a good topic to discuss in this time of all the stuff that we see on the media about people being profiled, not knowing their rights, all sorts of good things. So I'm happy to be a part of this discussion today.
Yeah. So what's going on in your neighborhood? What say you, lady?
Oh, well, the usual, they're trying to come back because, everybody's trying to, get some kind of normalcy during the summer. But I think the numbers are going so high. Like I heard today that they're thinking about going back on lockdown after the summer with the numbers being what they are. But in the meantime, people are trying to enjoy. I'm trying to enjoy getting out and being social without being scared. But yet we had a scare because I caught myself going to Six Flags for my Sweet 16 birthday party for my 16-year-old. Mm-hmm. And I said, okay, we'll go where everybody will have their mask on, coordinated mask, coordinated bandanas, family celebration with matching T-shirts. And I'm like, okay, well, according to the videos that Six Flags had up, they were saying that, they had these giant screening machines for everybody to walk through to take their temperature, and that they're wiping down the rides in between. You see people wiping down counters for where you eat at and the rides every time somebody get off. So I'm thinking that this is what they're really doing because that's what the videos say on their website. So I'm thinking, oh, it's going to be safe and social distance and we'll be fine. Okay, so reality check. That did not happen. That was not the reality. They did have the giant scanners. They were not wiping down between rides and people at concession stands. People were walking around. I think we were the only ones I saw the entire time we were there for 2 hours that actually had on masks. I was like, oh, okay. I didn't know what to make of it, but it still is like we come home. I think we came home Sunday night. I felt a little off. Then Monday morning, it's like people got sore throats and little slight temperatures, and I'm like, oh no, the family got coronavirus.
No. We're gonna blame it on allergies. It's allergies.
Oh no, everybody was under air conditioners because the temperature was so humid most of last week that people were really falling asleep like right under the air conditioners. Mm-hmm. So everybody has related to air conditioning. Mm-hmm. It's just the cold. We're sneezing around here, stuffy nosing around here. I got Vicks on right now, so I'm a little stuffy, partially stuffy. But no, we're good. We're definitely COVID free. It's just a matter. It was just scary that people were in masks.
Yeah. You know what? Talking about that, I know that you just mentioned you thought that everybody's gonna be wiping down stuff and everything. I can't tell you about the encounter that I had when I went to the public library. So I went to Burlington, and I'm putting Burlington Public Library on blast. It is what it is. That table was so disgusting because I usually just I'll swipe everything down before I actually sit down to use it. The table was so disgustingly dirty. It was visible dirt. It was caked on dirt. And it was just like, yo, this is like a petri dish right here. I didn't even stay. I just left. I was just like, you know what? Let me just pack up my stuff and wipe everything down before I put it in my bag. And I'm out of here. Because I just figured that I'll get a couple things done, at the public library that I paid for with my tax money. And I can't do that because it's nasty. So, all right. Burlington Public Library, please. Burlington Public. You know what? It's Burlington County Public Library. County Library. So get y'all stuff together, please. Please. Hygiene, cleanliness. Wear masks and everything, but still we got to be clean. So anyway, what I'm gonna do is my rant is over. I'm gonna bring in our guest, Daryl Pennington, for tonight. He is a criminal defense attorney, and he's going to tell us a little bit about his story, who he is, and where he's from. So, hey, Daryl.
Hey, I'm a little caught up in this computer not cooperating with me. I hope you can hear me.
Yes, we can. We can hear you, we can see you.
I'm trying to work on you being able to see me.
No, I see you. So if you just
do you? Okay.
Your camera is at the top of your screen probably. So if you look into there, we'll see you. We see you very, very clearly.
Thank you. I'm not able to see myself, so I figured everybody else was not able to. But good evening. My name is Daryl Pennington. I'm an attorney. I have offices in Newark and an office in Mount Holly. I've been practicing criminal defense for approaching 20 years now. And that's all I do. I'm not going to help you with your will, write your lease, look at your contract. You know, all I do is do my best to help people who have been charged with criminal offenses. I spent the first, in fact, while I was still in law school, I was hired by Raymond Brown. Some of the older folks may recognize that name. Ray Brown hired me, and I worked exclusively for him. Well, not exclusively, but I was at his side 6 days a week for the last 10 or 15 years of his life. And for those of you who do know, Mr. Brown was a complete warrior. He was against anything that had anything to do with any sort of injustice, and he was prepared to go to any sort of fight to stand up for what he believed in. And hopefully and apparently a lot of that has rubbed off on me. I grew up in the greater Newark area. I grew up in East Orange. Orange. I lived near lived on Central Place near the Peru Street in Wilson Place projects for many years. Ultimately, I dropped out of high school and realized very shortly that I have not the temperament to be a criminal. If I were a better criminal, I'd never become a lawyer. I'm not very good at it. Every time I tried something, I got caught. And then I knew immediately I cannot do time. There's I cannot do it. There's just couldn't. So I've realized I had to get a better job. I'm a retired union carpenter. I spent 25 years with Local 2212. From then I taught at several different venues: Temple University, Burlington County College, Camden County College. I spent 5 years teaching at Trenton State Prison. I coached college basketball for both men and women for about 5 or 8 years. And then I decided to go to law school, and pretty much brings us to where we are today.
Yeah, wow. Thank you for sharing that. So, I mean, you came from some, like you said, humble beginnings, right? And you came full circle, really, right? You from the petty criminal stuff.
The circle started with me and my brothers living in a station wagon, so we're at the other end of the circle. I've come to realize that as a defense attorney, I genuinely love Black men. Most of my clients are young Black men, and I love every one of them. Nobody loves us. Nobody loves us.
I love you. We love you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I needed to hear that. We get a tough break, boy. You know, you go into court, and overwhelmingly, everybody in the courthouse who is Black is a defendant. I can't begin to tell you how many times I have been, quote, mistaken for the defendant, even though I'm just like all the other attorneys with my suit on and my briefcase and my New York Times, my cup of coffee.
No, that's just blatant racism. Come on now.
Well, listen, I'm just telling you what I have been mistaken for.
Yeah.
Plenty of times. All you guys over there with the New York Times, the white ones, yeah, you go over there. You, the bald guy, yeah, the Black guy, you go over there with all the defendants. Wow. That has happened plenty of times. I have been compelled literally to stand up in court, and when the prosecutor asked the witness on the stand to identify the defendant, I have been pointed at. I'm sitting at the defense table, and the witness is pointing at me. Yeah, that's the guy, the bald guy right there. And I'm like, oh boy, that's a good one. I'm the lawyer, lady. You really messed that one up. But it's not always. I feel like when I go into the courtroom, I am in there completely by myself. Nobody is on my side. Everybody has formed opinions of my client. Again, a young black man who has, they either believe that he is guilty of this or he is guilty of something and deserving of a conviction. So that lends itself to an uphill battle representing my clients from the very beginning. On the other end of the spectrum, my clients have no reason to trust me. So it takes some time for me to get them to tell me the truth. And I realize that most of my clients that I have represented, I have never gotten the full story out of, just simply because they're not going to share information with someone who they don't really feel they're comfortable with. Or sometimes I get the full story after the case has been completed. So I really feel like that I am in the loneliest job in the world. I go into the courtroom hoping that at least one person in that courtroom, I hope, just doesn't care. That's the best I can hope for, because everybody else in there is against me. If there's one guy over there that just says, I don't care what happens, I'm getting off at noon, I'm retiring this weekend, do whatever you want to do. I love that guy. I point out to my clients that with respect to there being some level of fairness, everybody in here, everybody in this courtroom is being paid by the same person. The judges, the prosecutors, the public defenders, the police officers, the court staff, they're all being paid by the state of New Jersey. And Mr. Brown's favorite saying was, if you take the king's shilling, you must do the king's bidding. So as much as I would love to believe that there is a level of neutrality that goes on in a trial, I don't think it is certainly not 100% neutral, even though we cannot set aside any personal biases. But I don't think it's designed to be. There are things that are inherently impartial about a trial, particularly when you're putting together a jury of your peers, all 12 of whom, or none of the 12 are young black men. That makes it particularly challenging. So it's a tough job, and I'm not. I am not complaining, and not at all. This is not a complaint. I'm not ranting. I'm not venting. Just pointing out that this is what I expect every time I get to take a client on.
For sure. So we know that police encounters usually catch us off guard, and we wanted to know what the steps we should take when or if that's to happen, right? So if you could just run us through what to do if in the case of if we're pulled over by the police. Right.
What I tell every one of my clients, if you're in a car, I say turn on all your interior lights, open all of your windows, no matter how cold it is, open all of the windows, put the car in park, turn off the ignition, leave the keys in the ignition, put your hands on the steering wheel, and look forward. Don't take your seatbelt off. Continue to look forward, and be compliant. Anybody who's in the car with you, tell that person or those people, do not say a word. Don't say anything at all. If anybody in that car is with you and starts making jokes or wants to give any officer a hard time, tell the officer, I want to put that person out of my car. As a defendant, you are compelled, or as an American, actually, you are compelled to identify yourself. So the officer may ask you for your license, your registration, your insurance card, and if it's in your glove compartment or in your wallet, let him know, I have to reach into my glove compartment to get the registration, or, I've got to go into my purse to get my license. Let them know what you're going to do in advance so they know what's going on. Beyond that, if it's a minor traffic ticket thing, you use some judgment, and unfortunately, far too often young kids don't have judgment. But I always say, never say anything other than I want my lawyer. Those are the only 4 words you ever say. The 5th word is the one that's going to get you in trouble. There's a question that has come up, and other people asked me as well. Does a juvenile have to identify himself? Yes. But he or she does not necessarily have to produce a license or something like that. But all I would suggest that person do is provide contact information for his or her parent or guardian. My mother's name is Alice Smith. Her phone number is X, Y, and Z. This is our address, and she works at such and such a place. And that's all I would say. And I would also suggest that never become belligerent, rude, antagonistic, or anything that would give this officer an opportunity to suggest that you were being non-compliant. And I tell them right up front, listen, I'm not trying to give you a hard time. And I do this myself, being as old as I am. I'm not trying to give you a hard time. I'm not trying to be mean. I will identify myself. I will answer all appropriate questions. Beyond that, I have nothing to say other than I want to talk to my lawyer. And, oh, you're trying to be a smart aleck. No, I'm not trying to be a smart aleck. I'm just going to get this thing done. Let's just do it this way. If you're not in a car and you're encountered by the police, I always say, and this is probably true if you're in a car as well, treat that encounter as if you had stumbled upon a vicious dog unexpectedly. And by that, I mean, police officers are geared for, they are equipped for, they are trained for, and they are anticipating immediate violence. More often than not, they will have the advantage in any sort of physical confrontation, especially since not only do they have all the weapons on them, there's another cop that's really close by and that is on his way. So at the end of the altercation, it may start with you and some cop you think you can take. Before it's all over, it's going to be you and 7 cops, none of which you could have taken. So I'd say be completely compliant. And as if you're dealing with a vicious dog, no sudden movements. Keep your hands where they can be seen. Speak calmly, slowly, softly. Yeah. Do not make eye contact and try to be compliant. Now, a dog is telling you, hey, get away from me. So in that situation, I would back away very slowly without making any moves. But with a cop, I'm going to do exactly what he says for me to do. Put your hands on the wall, put your hands over your head, I'm doing that. You said put my hands on my head. I'm reaching for my head. Show me some ID. I will have to take my hand off my head and reach into my pocket. And it sounds silly, but these are the things that unfortunately it has come to be known that even if we do these things, we still end up being shot and beaten and arrested and whatever. So there can't be too great a level of precaution that we can take when we're encountering with the police. I say this, that whenever the police officers interact with a member of the public, that person's civil rights and constitutional rights are going to be violated. And I don't mean every cop comes out and says, oh, yeah, I'm going to go out today and I'm going to put some drugs on a guy, or I'm going to case him up, make him look like he's the one who did the burglary, anything like that. But cops are going to insist that you do things that you don't have to do constitutionally. Once you say to this officer, I want to speak to my attorney, at that point, there should be no more questioning, no more communication. If he wants to arrest you, which he probably wants to do anyway, he's going to handcuff you. But if he pulls you over and says, hey, you're going pretty fast there, you don't have to respond to that. Where are you on your way to? You don't have to respond to that. I see you walking in this neighborhood. Are you from around here? You don't have to answer any of that. Now, you have to make a judgment call. How much information do I share with this guy to keep from getting whatever he's going to do to me so I can just make this thing go away? But in the ordinary course, I say no more than those 4 words. I want my attorney. Or if you're a juvenile, I want my mother to call my attorney or my father. Mm-hmm. I had a client who was had Down syndrome, and they asked me, what should my son say that if he doesn't understand? He should say loudly, I don't understand. Right? If you feel comfortable saying I have disabilities and I don't understand, here's my father's information. Make it plain to whomever you're dealing with that you're not trying to give this person a hard time, but you're not going to surrender your rights simply because he insists that you do. I tell all of my clients this, and I encourage everybody to read. There's a book that I give away to my clients, and I insist they read it or I won't take on their case. It's called You Have the Right to Remain Innocent. It's a book written by a law school professor, and he's a very conservative professor. And the book details essentially what do people involved with the law enforcement community tell their children when they're stopped by the police. I'm talking, attorney generals, prosecutors, judges, Supreme Court justices, police officers, detectives, federal FBI agents. And the thing that it says throughout the book, don't say anything. The book is very small. It's like 100 pages, a small book, and every single word in there is vitally important. The most important thing that I like to say is be prepared to accept some level of humiliation. Because when the cops realize that you're not going to give them a hard time, they may try and put you in a position to respond. And they may tell you to get down on your knees and in the grass with your nice shoes on or something. Yeah, and you don't want to do that. At the end of the day, you have to decide, do you want to get through this thing relatively unscathed and to fight for another day to let whomever know that you were mistreated by this circumstance? We seem to think that there has been an uptick in police violence over the years, and I would say that that's patently untrue. I think there has been an uptick of people having cameras with them. There has been an uptick of people being prepared to broadcast and publicize the things that have taken place in our communities for the past 400 or 500 years. I don't think things are any different than they have ever been. And people always say, well, this system has to be changed. And I don't think it does. This system is working exactly as it is prescribed to have worked. The system has to be dismantled. This system is not broken. This is exactly what's going on by design. There is a whole world of people out there who are benefiting significantly from the fact that we Black people and people of color are being mistreated in the community by the policing agencies.
Yeah, it's so unfortunate that we are going through that, and we're still going through that. So there's times where people are approached and unjustly. So you still say comply, you still say give them your name. Because I woke up, I fell asleep with Instagram running constantly all night, right? And I woke up and I watched this video, and it was of these young men. They were sitting outside a hotel, and apparently the cops were called on another group, of young men. And and pardon. And so another group of young men, the cops were called, and then what happened was the cops were running down on the group of men that were outside. So they were young kids. They were like in their teens. And the cops were running down on them. Like, what's your name? Where are you going? Where are you coming from? All those questions. And the kid was saying, I'm just not giving you my name. Like, I'm not, because I'm not the person that you're looking for. Like, the people that you were looking for left. And it was only because somebody was on scene recording everything from the beginning, from the first encounter, that it was even known that, okay, that it wasn't actually them. And somebody outside had to go inside of the whole situation to get the person that called, the manager that called, for them to identify that, no, these weren't the kids. If they didn't come outside, if those people from the outside didn't go in, get the manager, bring them outside to identify this was not the people that you were calling the cops on, these kids would have been in jail. Like, this is so real. Like, it's insane.
There's a couple of things. I don't know. I was trying to run it through my mind just now. I can't tell you how many people I have represented because that person did not or could not identify himself. The one I'm thinking about most recently is the police came to a person's house and they wanted to arrest this certain guy who was a warrant out for him, whatever, John Smith, let's say. There was a legitimate warrant for John Smith. John Smith's brother answers the door and they said, okay, John, come with us. He says, I'm not John. He's standing in his pajamas. I'm not John. How can you show me some ID? I don't have any ID. I'm in my pajamas. Well, we're taking you because you're John. It became his responsibility to prove to police, and this was after he was arrested. I'm representing him now because he failed to comply with the police. Ultimately, was the charge. He could not demonstrate to the police person's satisfaction that he was not the person for whom they were looking. It happens. It's unfortunate. People have been arrested in their own homes for being disorderly in their own. How can you be disorderly in your own home? This is my house. If I want to kick in all the windows, whose business is that? People have been arrested for being disorderly in their own home. People have been arrested for loitering in front of their own homes. And there's no end to what goes on. There was a video. It's actually a documentary, and I just happened to catch it by accident. I caught it in the middle. I don't know the name of it. It was on PBS. There was a person in the media who was traveling with the Newark police on an overnight shift.
Yeah.
And during the course of that night, these two cops stopped, I don't know, a dozen, maybe 24 people. From my perspective, not one of them should have been stopped by the police under any circumstances. At about 11 o'clock at night, they saw a kid riding a bike. Hey, it's too late for that kid to be riding a bike. Let's go snatch him up. Now, it's not too late to ask that kid a question. Hey, kid, how come you out here at 11 o'clock, by yourself on a school night? And if the kid says something reasonable, then you got to let him go. Well, the kid said something reasonable. They didn't let him go. I'm waiting for my brother to get off from work. I meet him at the bus stop, blah, blah. We don't believe you got a brother who works. They take him in. There's a guy, they pull up in front of a house where there is a report of drugs being sold. There's 2 or 3 people in front of the house. They were all arrested, handcuffed, searched, who lived in that house. And this was after midnight. It was well after midnight. But they were not selling any drugs. They were just hanging out in front of their own home. A guy comes walking up the street, has nothing to do with this. They take this poor man, they handcuff him, they put him down on the ground, they search him, they go through all his pockets, and he's telling them, I'm coming home from work. I just got off the bus. I catch whatever the bus number is. It lets me off in the block here. I live 3 doors down. These people are my neighbors. I'm just going home. I get off from work. And they would not let this guy go until they were satisfied that he was legitimately coming home from work and just taking the bus and going home. And the entire time he did that, these 4 or 5 people, including the guy who was walking down the street, sat there on the ground or laid there on the ground, handcuffed by the police. And they're on video laughing and joking and carrying on. And what do we do with these guys? We got these guys out here in the middle of the night, blah, blah. And I was appalled by that whole thing. And I say all of that to say that these things take place, I would suggest, every day in virtually every inner city community across this country, and has been going on for the past several hundred years. One of the things that we have to learn how to do is come through these encounters unscathed. And part of that is by trying to be compliant, even when you're being humiliated.
That's so unfortunate that we, we're so dehumanized pretty much. Like, we're just like you said, we have to comply in order to just keep our life, right? It's sad. Aisha, did you have any questions for Daryl?
No, I'm still like processing the whole thought of like, we really no, we don't have to take it. I mean, to some degree, we do have to take it.
We don't have to take it.
That's why I'm like, I'm really pushing for my 16-year-old to become a lawyer, because he loved to interrogate me. He loved to question my decisions on a regular basis. And I'm like, we have a lot of going back and forth and stuff. And I'm like, he definitely deep dives into some questions that I'm like, okay, and proving some points that I was like, yeah, I never really thought of it that way. So I'm like, yeah, he should be in lawyers. He should be in law school, because he has his way of understanding things are deeper than I even really grasped at the time that I told him to do something. And he's like, well, if this, that, and other goes with that. And so, and if the weather, if it rains outside, what's the purpose of taking this out now opposed to taking it later? I'm like, yeah, okay, I get your points. So, but to just sit and just take it when we can actually change some laws and some regular, it's not okay.
It's not. There has always been significant levels of resistance. It has not always been violent or physical resistance. It is not always, and it does not always have to be, a protest. This guy shows up to arrest you and to give you a hard time, and you don't give him the opportunity to do that. That's resistance, and that's a victory. It's hard. It's unfortunate that we're put in that position. But one thing that I realize is that, being a young Black man, particularly growing up in the city, there is no challenge being encountered by the police. I have 4 brothers. 3 of us are lawyers. One of us is my older brother is a real estate guy. He owns a bunch of houses. And all. We have, and I don't want to tell anybody's business, but we have all had our encounters with the police. Mm-hmm. And to look at this group now, my brothers and I, this is a successful group of young men who all have been taught how to respond to being treated by the police officers, police agencies, through firsthand knowledge. And I think that that's probably one of the most important lessons that we can teach any of our children. I always said, as a parent of Black children, my first responsibility is to teach my kids how to deal with white folks. Because if you don't know how to deal with white folks, they know how to deal with you. We have monuments to young Black people who don't know how to deal with white folks. They're called prisons. They're called cemeteries. They're called dropout rules. They're called unemployment. They're called drug addiction. Anything that's out there that is negative, that is available to be bestowed upon us, we are subjected to when we don't know how to go about circumventing that sort of problem. That is, this system. And I don't want to get on this high horse, but it has been proven that crack was delivered to the inner city so the government can make money. There's no question about it. That's absolutely a fact. So if we're concerned with whether or not drugs have infiltrated our city by the government, yes. Oliver North said yes, that has happened. FBI has infiltrated every program that we have ever had that had any sort of ambition of being social minded, and has been undermined, and we have been arrested. And I don't want to go way deep into that, but I am saying that again. I say that that buttresses my argument that my responsibility as a parent of Black children, boys and girls, is to make sure they understand how to interact with white people in different settings, at work, at home, in school, on the streets, when you're stopped by the police. Now, I have been arrested in the courthouse for quote vigorously defending my client. I have literally been handcuffed and taken out of a courtroom and put in a jail cell because when I wanted to make a point, the judge told me to sit down and shut up. And I said to him, Judge, there's a lot of things going to happen here in the next few minutes, but me sitting down and shutting up are not going to be any of them. It sort of went from there.
Mm-hmm. No, we appreciate that you have stood up, against the system.
Yeah. So how do you encourage, or how do you go about, like, people who actually do want to stand up against the injustices that are constantly handled out in our urban areas when you're being harassed in the police domain? My thing is, like, I tell because I never really too much trained my boys, my Black young men, how to handle traffic, being detained or whatever. And I didn't know too much about it until I could start paying with Parents Engaging Parents. And I didn't know there was even a procedure on how to handle a traffic stop. But now that I'm come across it, I'm like, we are really, to some degree, we're training them to survive a traffic stop. But how do you successfully go against the police after you've managed to get through a traffic stop and you actually want to report the police officers for doing you an injustice when they stopped you? Like, how do we go about doing that kind of movement?
The first thing that I would do is, whomever it is, the person who was mistreated, I would suggest that they write down a detailed accounting of what took place. Get as much information as they can possibly get, the officer's name, his badge number, what unit she's from, what time this took place, where we're located, write down all of that, and what specifically took place that you were saying, that you were saying was wrongful act. One thing that you come to appreciate is that the police, whenever there is a citizen's complaint against a police officer, and I'm not encouraging anybody to do anything just to mess with folks, that complaint is always a part of their permanent record, even if it's unfounded. So if they say, well, I filed a complaint with the police department, this guy mistreated me, he threatened me, he this, that record is in his permanent file, and then there will be a resolution. We investigated, we found it to be not true, or we found it to be partially true, or some of this was true, and this is what we did to fix it. Over the course of a guy's career, say he's been a cop for 12 years, and he's got 22 citizens' complaints at traffic stops. Even if they have all been unfounded, somebody's got to say, there's an issue with this guy. Something's going on, like the cop in Minnesota, when he killed the guy, stood on his throat. He had like 16 reprimands.
Yes.
And that played a part in how this matter was addressed. Looking at his record and saying, this guy may not be as clean as he wants us to think he is. So it's our responsibility when the police go out when they begin their shift, they're all told the most important thing for you to do today is be able to come home safely. Well, that's the same thing we have to, unfortunately, tell our kids, that the world is not as safe as we wanted them to think it is. Your job is to come home safely. That means that when you encounter the police, as much as you think it is reasonable, comply with that person's directive. Live to fight another day. No, I don't want to kneel down in the wet grass with my brand new pants on. But if the alternative is being thrown to the ground with a guy kneeling on your back into the wet grass, and then you're handcuffed and you're beaten and you're taken away, versus falling down and being whatever, weigh it, measure it out. Am I going to take this chance?
Man,
I would suggest yes.
it just it pains me to think that, you know, we have to be subjected to being treated inhumanely. Like, that's the part, like, your face is on the ground, like,
Well, Erica, let's start.
your back, like,
Let me say this. We are here because we are thought of as being inhuman. We are beasts of burdens. We are chattel. You know, the fact that we are no longer under the lash and being forced to pick the cotton and so forth is an advancement. We have not yet apparently advanced far enough to be treated as, you know, regular American citizens. But it's hard to think of something as a beast of burden for 400 years. Then all of a sudden you have to make a quick 360 and say, hey, these are regular people. We have to treat them, you know, as if we want to treat regular people. It's a slow process, unfortunately. It is. It's humiliating. Nobody likes it. Nobody wants it. I'm still thinking at some point in my life, I am going to reach a plateau where I will be treated like everybody else. You know, when I finally became a high school graduate, I'm like, okay, high school graduates get treated differently. No, I'm a brother with a high school diploma. Then I became a tradesman and I ran my trade. Okay, I'm a brother with a trade. I'm not a tradesman like everybody else. Okay, I ran a business. I'm not a businessman like everybody else. I got a college degree. I'm not a college graduate like everybody else. And now I'm not a lawyer like everybody else. If you ask anybody about me, the first thing they're going to say is, oh, yeah, that black lawyer. Now, maybe there's very few things that you can say about me to identify me first off. But in the grand scheme of things, there are not that many black lawyers. So you can say, you know, the guy from Mount Holly, he's the bald guy, he's got brothers who are lawyers, blah, 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 blah. And then you get to the fact that I'm a black lawyer. But I am identified as that black lawyer. Unfortunately, whenever this topic comes up, somebody says, oh, it always goes down to racism. It is always a racist element to any interaction that we have. You know, somebody tells a joke. What's the difference between a black man and a nigger? Well, the nigger's the guy who just left the room. And you know, I don't want to, it's not, you know, it's hard for me to have this conversation because it seems like I am just denigrating every aspect of our existence, and I'm not. In the grand scheme of things, life is good and I am comfortable. And I am happy and I am proud of most of the people that I know. But there are elements of our lives that cannot be overlooked, that must be addressed on a daily basis. To this day, if you walk into a certain department store, somebody's going to follow you around. If you're asking for a certain, you know, I held out a platinum, American Express platinum card. The woman called the manager on me. I'm like, you know,
you can't win.
So,
you can't win. You can't win for being.
There's some things, you know, the next thing I learned is this. There's two things you got to do. You can't be angry at everything all the time. Some things you just got to let it go. The next thing is you got to pick your battles. You know, it's not that big a deal whether or not I buy this. You know, if you don't want to take my credit, I'll see you later. Okay. There's a store down the street. They'll probably take it. I'm not getting upset over every little transgression that has been visited on me. I can't do it anymore. I can't. And that's part of what I think we need to treat our children. You have to pick your battles. Now, if the cop walks up to you and he takes his nightstick and he cracks your best friend in his head, that sets the tone for what's getting ready to take place. That's very different than, hey, you kids, get over here, sit down. Sit in the dirt. That's a different way to deal with each one of those. There's a video, and I told you guys about this the other day. I still didn't catch it. Somewhere in Ohio, Colorado, 3 men were thought to have had warrants out for them, so the police came up on them. 2 of the guys ran away. There's one guy there that was compliant, sat on the ground, did what they told him. They beat the guy with his gun. On video, they have videos. The guy's got a gash on his head that took 6 stitches. The police captain is on TV now going, that's not police, and we had to fire these guys. There's a white man and I guess Hispanic woman that beat this guy up, this black guy, and he did nothing but sit there and did exactly. And they kept saying, lay down. He kept saying, okay, I'm trying, and they just keep beating on the guy. So we are going to encounter circumstances.
That's that culture. That's that culture, that cop culture.
You know, when people say to me that all cops are not bad, and I have come to believe that that's not true. I believe that there are people who have become cops because they can do those kinds of things. There are guys I have gone to school with that have become cops, and I'm like, damn, they gave that fool a gun. Oh man, we're in trouble. But I suspect that there are some people who want to become cops to protect and serve and help people out and all that kind of stuff. I think one of two things happens to those guys. One of three things. A, they don't say anything. They keep it to themselves, and they don't. Which is part of the culture that encourages the culture. Secondly, they quit. They stop becoming. They can't do anything. They can't be the cop that they thought that they were going to be. So we don't have that cop anymore. Or three, they become one of the guys. You know, when they say that the cops have a hard time dealing with the snitching community, people will not snitch. I understand that there's the thin blue law line that says support cops. You don't say anything against the cop. If necessary, you fabricate evidence and tell lies to support that cop. You write reports that are not true to support that cop, but at all costs, do not snitch on this cop. I don't see the difference. How is there a snitching culture that the police have that's different than ours? That one's okay, and ours isn't different. Is not okay. You know, we have a problem with gang violence in America. From my perspective, the police are the biggest gang in the country.
Definitely.
That's a gang. Those and the difference between those gangs and say the Crips and the Bloods or whomever, they're empowered by the state to go out there and act in a gang-like fashion and to determine who gets to be these are people who have the ability to forever change your life in the blink of an eye, and they make the decision who that's going to be. And they are obviously ill-trained and ill-prepared to do that. And when it's found out that he is not the person to do that, they protect him. The guy, the OJ, I forget his name now, OJ Simpson detective. They asked him on his stand that I've never one time ever said nigger. They pull out a video. The guy says nigger 47 times in an hour. Okay.
Ooh.
All right. I can't remember the guy's name, but this was the detective.
Mark Furman.
Furman, thank you. What gets to me is this, that these people, these cops are doing these things while they're being videotaped, which means that it's business as usual. They feel like that they can act with impunity, even though there is staunch evidence against them that says that they have done something criminal and something that is unconstitutional. They continue to do it. This thing happened the other night. They're on video and they're doing their own video. It's their chest protecting video that they're submitting as evidence that they have done something illegal.
So we have,
I'm sorry.
No, we have our parent champion from Atlantic City here with us, and I know that she has a question. Unique, hey, what's going on?
Hi guys, how are you?
Good.
So Daryl, you spoke on a record for the police when you when there's an incident and you file a complaint you want to go and file a complaint about the police.
Yes.
Now, what if you are in a situation where you go and file a complaint, or you think that you file a complaint and those complaints actually don't go through?
And that's why it's incumbent upon us to follow up on what we do. We go down, we talk to officer so-and-so. I filed a complaint on, August 3rd at 4:15 p.m. against, police officer Constella. What happened with that complaint? It's been 3 weeks. I haven't heard anything. We'll double check. That's why I suggest whenever we do any of this, we put it in writing, and you CC everybody you can think of. The mayor, the chief of police, the councilman, the prosecutor. Somebody's going to say, why am I getting this crap on my desk? I don't have time for this. Fix this.
That's what we need to hear. Tag everybody.
Everybody. When I file a motion, I put everybody I can think of on that motion. The judge's name, the chief judge, the chief prosecutor, the chief detective, the guy who opened the door, the next guy down the street, the guy who serviced the car. If you're in the line, somehow I can put you in this chain of command. I'm going to put your name on this. Two things happen. Most people get tired. I got nothing to do with this. Leave this crap alone. Stop bothering it. This is your job, Henry. Fix it. The next thing they do is they start telling on each other. Well, Hank, they named me on this motion, but you're actually the guy who hit him. Why am I involved with this? What are we going to do about this? So now there's some competition between, some of the people who are involved that have to come. And this is what they do. This is exactly what they do to the criminals. They arrest my client and 6 other people who have nothing to do with it. Give every one of them as many charges as they can think of, and they'll start telling on each other as quickly as they can possibly tell on each other. And the guy's going to say, officer, I was over there parking my car. You came up here and you arrested me. Well, why were you here? When I got here, those guys were over there inside that other car. So now he's already telling on them other folks to protect himself. That's what the police do. That's part of that thin blue wall or blue wall or whatever they call it. So yes, absolutely follow up on whatever it is you're doing, and let them know that you're serious. There are people who literally go to the police department once a week. My daughter was mugged and you haven't done anything about it. And it's been 9 weeks now and I've been here 9 times. What are we going to do about this? Become something. Let's say the squeaky wheel gets the oil. Become a pain in the ass.
I was watching a Karen video earlier today that my daughter shared. And the woman that was being harassed, the black woman that was being harassed, went down to the station to report, how everybody was how the police were handling stuff. And basically, after all the runaround she got from, pushing, putting the paperwork through, saying that she has a problem with how they handle stuff, she basically felt like after all of that work that they weren't going to do anything. So now she was talking about trying to get a lawyer. I'm like, does it ever get to that point where we have to, as a victim, have to get lawyers against the police when we file complaints?
Yes.
Oh, see, now we got to come out of pocket. Now we got to come out of pocket. We're the victim. We got to come out of pocket to defend ourselves.
I don't think so. There are agencies that exist. Sometimes you might. There's the ACLU. There's the every county has a legal aid society or something like that can help you out. That can give you some guidance. Sometimes it just takes the right phone call from the right person to the right person. And it changes. I mean, I get calls a lot of times. One thing about my business is criminal defense is really a small fraternity. There's not a lot of us. So we see the same judges, the same prosecutors, the same court officers and all over and over and over again. And over the course of 10 or 15 years, you become familiar with them. And I have clients come to me and say, I have a problem, this. I have no problems making a phone call. I'll call the prosecutor in a minute. Hey, Fred, Daryl, yeah, how you doing? Listen, I got a client ask me about X, Y, and Z. What do you know about that? I don't know. I'll get back to you. Now, Fred's going to call me back and say, don't worry about it. It's all taken care of. Or your guy should call this guy or whatever. Sometimes it's very important that it's not what you know, it's who you know. That's why when I go into the courtroom, I try not to piss anybody off until they make me. I mean, once they make me, I'm all geared up for it. But in the ordinary course, let's just do this. It's work. I'm not going to get excited until you guys start cheating, and then all bets are off. All that ghetto going to come out in me. All them projects going to be laid right out on the front run of this table, and you're going to have to deal with it. So, did that answer your question? And I went on for a while. Unique. Did that answer your question?
No, that yes, it did answer the question. That's okay that you been for a while.
Oh goodness. So there's actually been, and we're talking about encounters with police. So I know that there was a video that came out just as early as this morning that I definitely want to share with everybody. And just so everybody does have an understanding that it is pretty graphic. It will upset you. I know that it definitely upset me. Daryl, I'm sad that you can't see this, but definitely if you could.
I would say this. I am probably not sad that I can't see it.
Well, I know that. Well,
they showed that Central Park 5 thing. I refuse to see it. I can't. I can't watch it.
We're definitely gonna watch and listen into this post that just happened, came up today. It was to set it up, it was on Instagram, and if we can just pull it up, that'd be great. Thank you. There it is. If we can get audio on that. Might need to press play. Or maybe it's just not coming up. All right, we're going to try it this way. There's always two ways. All right, I am going to share my screen and so that we'll be able to see it. Yeah, just let me know if it's up there. So D.L. Hughley did post this morning. Okay, are you guys seeing my?
Yes.
Yes? Okay.
Why you don't have to ever hear her? She will stay down, okay? No, do not touch me. Just calm down. Calm down. Hold on.
Talk to her.
Okay, but you can get up. You don't have to do her like this.
She's trying to jump in front of me.
No, she is not. Please calm down. Kaya, calm down. Kaya, calm down. Just calm down.
She's calm. Just let her get up. Please, you don't have to sit on her like that.
Kaya, calm down. Kaya, just calm down.
Okay.
Just calm down. Just breathe, Kaya.
Calm
Just
down.
breathe.
I got her, please. She's y'all is on her. Where are y'all? It's 102 degrees out here. I can't breathe. She cannot breathe.
She's spitting up.
You don't even fucking care. No. She hasn't done anything. No. Okay.
Well, what are you going to turn her over for and cover? She has not done anything.
Please let her go.
She's literally just walking.
Bro, you're pissing me off. She cannot fuck. Bro. Stop. Okay.
Okay, listen. I'm a stranger. Stand her up.
Okay, Mama, I was telling you.
Okay, okay, let us get her retained and safe. Back up.
She's literally falling from her mouth. She's literally falling from her mouth. And she just let her up.
Why does she need a handcuff? Wait, she didn't do anything.
If she's running in front of
She's not her mother. She's not going to go anywhere.
She cannot breathe. Just stand back.
Why are y'all about to handcuff her?
Just hold on.
She has not done anything. And then you out on her all up. I need your fucking badge number and your name. Record his fucking shit. Please do.
Calm down, Kaya.
Just calm down. Everything's okay.
It's easy for her. Like, she's a girl.
He know that he didn't give a fuck. Please put that camera back on, up here on your chest.
It was never on you in the first place. Why was your camera not on you while you were on? Yeah, we finna report all that. All of that. You had to report all of that. Please do. We finna report all of that. Where's her shoes? Can you hold this?
Give her.
I'm not talking. We got to stop. You got that.
Jay, stop! Jay, don't stop! Jay, stop! Stop! No, sir, stop, please! Sir, please! Okay, stop! Okay, sir, please! Please! Jay, it's all right, Jay. It's all right. It's all right. It's gonna get handled. It's gonna get handled for sure. It's gonna get handled for sure.
Mama, stay calm. Mama, stay calm. Stay calm. Mama, stay calm. Stay calm, Kyle. All I did was ask him. My daughter's been free. She was throwing at the mat.
It's all right. I got it all on video.
Please do not put him in the car with her. Please don't. Don't put either one in the car with her. Ma'am, please get back to us.
Miss,
Just get back.
Miss, come back.
Come back. All I did was ask you to listen to
I got it. Yeah, I got it. I got
I
everything.
didn't touch you. I touched my daughter when she said they were too tight. I did not touch you.
Come on, we can go to the car. Kaya, stop.
Just stay calm. Just stay calm.
Back up. I was trying to explain.
I was just touching her. He did not have to attack her like that, sir. I did not have to attack her like that, sir. He did not have to.
He's just scary. He's scary.
He did not have to attack her like that, sir. He must be
He's scary.
He gotta be with you. This must be his first day on the job.
He's scary.
Y'all should never.
Kaya, it's okay. It's okay.
Cause y'all should never put him out here. He obviously don't know what the fuck he doing. He obviously don't know what he's doing. His camera was on the ground while he was. Yeah, he did.
I got it all on video. I got it on video.
Sir,
I got it all on video.
not put on the car with him, sir. Please don't. I don't want to get in the car with him. Please do not put him in the car with her. Kaya, just be calm, Kaya.
Just chill, Kaya. Chill.
Let me go get my mama car.
Who called you? Where you finna go? Well, she wasn't doing nothing but walking. How you gonna fuck with somebody and they walking? We pull up, he on top of her with his camera underneath her.
That's what I'm saying. Y'all need to report that.
Y'all need to report that. It's okay, I got it on video. And I got your face, I got your badge number, I got your name, I got all of it. I got all of it. So it's okay.
It don't matter. It don't matter. It don't matter.
Jay, chill.
His camera still never been off at all.
Y'all got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 police out here for 3 little black girls. 3 little black, oh shit, 7. For 3 little black girls. I can tell you what happened, officer. I got it on video. All of it.
His camera was off. So y'all
Yeah. He's laying, no, listen. Come on, I want to make a statement.
I'm telling you, that camera
No.
been off.
Yeah, we pull up. Okay, I'm going to talk to you. Let me talk to you. I'm not going to yell. I'm going to tell you what happened. We pulled up.
And he had
He's,
my sister.
hey, stop. He's laying on top of her. She's foaming out of her mouth.
Camera off.
His body camera is laying underneath her. You can't do that. She get up and she tell you the handcuffs too tight, and then you're going to throw her on the ground. What sense does that make? He took her because she's walking. She's walking. That's it. That's all she's doing is walking. That's all she was doing is walking.
And then why didn't he call for backup as soon as he found her walking to his own street?
Why do you think all of us are here?
Oh man. That right there just
Arrested while being black. That's what that is.
she was walking down the street and he accused her of jumping traffic. Have you ever heard of that? What is jumping traffic?
I have no idea. I have no clue. I don't. I don't know what jump. Maybe it's jaywalking. I don't know. You know, I have seen a lot of videos over the last 2 or 3 years.
Okay, so
Well,
Daryl,
let me say this. My thing is
Go
this.
ahead.
I want to impress upon everybody that your best defense is to remain compliant. And each one of these things, there have been circumstances where the quote victim has not been compliant. But this is what I say. Not one of them has there ever been a circumstance where the officers reasonably said, since he didn't do what I told him to do, I had to kill him. Since this little girl didn't put her hands, I had to throw her face down on the ground. Yeah. So there is a level of responsibility that the police have to interact with people who are upset and people who are confused. You know, I guess the girl's what, 13, 14 years old or something? You got this little girl pinned to the ground. All your body weight is on top of her. You're actually in some very precarious position, if you ask me. I don't know that any police agency tells you to pin this girl down and press your groin into hers. But when that situation occurs, when you say to that person, that child, calm down, in the history of calming down, saying calm down, never calm down anybody, especially when you're laying on top of them and forcing the breath out of them. And I wish I hadn't seen that. I tried to figure out how not to see it, but there are issues with our system. We have the responsibility to protect ourselves. We cannot expect that anybody else is going to care about us to the degree that we need to care about ourselves. You know, when I see a person walk out into the street in front of a car because they're inside of the crosswalk, they're counting on me being a nice guy who has not lost his mind, who's completely sober, and will step on the brake because you stepped out there. I don't have that much faith in other people. You're coming down the street. I see you driving. I want to stop and wait till you make sure we make eye contact. You're going to let me cross. Once this cop slams you to the ground, I understand in the heat of the moment, and I've been in those positions. It's tough. It's tough to maintain a level of composure.
Yeah.
It's something that we have to work on instilling in our children before that critical moment. You know, our children have to understand that at any given moment, and it's unfair to put this burden on a child and make them think that the world is not very safe. And Officer Bob is not the guy that's going to help you cross the street when all things are going well. But you have to find yourself in a position where you may be put in a position where you have to think this through. And thinking this through means remaining calm. And thinking this through means not reacting to any sort of antagonism that this cop throws at you. Thinking this through means knowing that I am going, at the end of the day, one thing that I think that my children understand about me, no matter what happens, I'm going to fight for you. You can be completely 100% dead wrong. I'm showing up. Mm-hmm. Just tell me what the facts are. Let me work out what I'm going to do about it. Don't lie to me and tell me what I'm dealing with. I'm going to be there. So when the cop comes to you and he throws you on the ground and he finds that you got a bag of weed in your pocket, I want to know that, because I'm still going to battle. And this was before I became a lawyer. Being a lawyer is not what makes me go to battle. Being a parent what makes me go to battle. Mm-hmm. When the school teacher, when the Boy Scout leader, when the soccer coach, anybody out there that comes up with some old nonsense, I'm going to battle. And you could be dead wrong. The first day of school, my daughter pushed the kid down a flight of stairs. When she her first day of high school. And they wanted to expel her. And I'm like, well, why, what's going on? Oh, we asked everybody what's going on and she's guilty. Well, what did she say? Oh, we didn't ask. Oh, then you didn't ask everybody.
Right.
What happened? The little boy admitted he walked up behind her. He took one of them great big pencils and smacked her in the back of the head, and she turned around and she pushed. And he fell down the stairs. That's a completely different story. Now, I would love to have said, no, my child did not push that kid down the stairs. But as soon as you said it, I knew, yep, that's my child. That's what she did. That doesn't mean I'm not going to go fight for you. Mm-hmm. And there was no suspensions under that. I mean, we fought for it. So we have to let our children know that they can be safe and confident and comfortable knowing somebody has their back.
So apparently they were accusing her of darting off into traffic, and he was attempting to save her from herself. So they had received a call. So it was a mental health call. So here we go again, right? How are we handling mental health issues when it comes to our police officers? I feel like a lot of them are mental cases themselves.
Most of them
are. If they're handling situations like this, like there wasn't even any and mind you, I didn't see the whole footage. I wasn't there for the whole ordeal, but you don't see any conversation. You see nothing.
Police are not trained to defuse a situation. Police are not trained to deal with mental health issues. Police show up to arrest. There was a little kid, true story, goes back 5 years old. He was in school. He was acting out. They couldn't control him. The principal or somebody called the police. The police handcuffed the kid. They arrested a 5-year-old because that's what they do. You can't fault the cops for doing what they do. You know, when all you have is a hammer, all your problems look like nails. They show up with guns and handcuffs. Somebody's going to get handcuffed. We don't care if he's 5.
And that whole ordeal with calling the cops on a 5-year-old, I mean, that's just the beginning of a record, right? They're going to keep that name and they're running it and they're holding on to it to catch that child in some other incident in school, outside of school, and hence there goes the school to prison pipeline, right? It's right there for you, laid out. Who's calling the police on a 5-year-old? Like,
I saw it on the news. I don't know the people personally,
but
it's real. This 5-year-old kid got arrested.
It's no, it's real. I've seen it.
I don't know, but again, when you call on that asset, the police, people will be arrested. When you call the Marines, folks going to die. That's what they do. The Marines are not trained to be diplomats. When we show up, we're blowing stuff up. The cops are not trained to be diplomats. When we show up, we're going to arrest you. If you give us any trouble, they gave me a gun, I'm going to shoot you. Mm-hmm. We need some people who are able to intervene, who are able to, and this may be the police, I don't know, or if there's a mental health call, then certainly you would think somebody from the hospital would want to be there, would be called. EMS would show up, somebody who has a cooler head, because the next thing about this is police are geared up for this. Mm-hmm. They have that group mentality. 2 or 3 cops get together, one cop gets pushed, it's like a pack of wolves. Oh no, somebody's going down. And nobody in that group is going to be prepared to say, hey, Officer Frank, Officer Gladys, relax, settle down. It's just a kid. Let's see what we can do here. Mm-hmm. They are not prepared for it. They don't have that sort of training. And I, unfortunately, and this is based solely on my personal experience, I don't have any facts or figures. The mindset of the person who wants to be a police officer and remains a cop for a period of time is not that of a person who is going to show up and want to mediate these sort of circumstances. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's like they live to be right. I know firsthand.
Oh.
But I'm not going to go there. I'm not going to go there. But yeah, Di James had just mentioned their cops are not trained to deal with crisis. Yes.
Well, they're trained to deal with crisis, and their training involves violence. Mm-hmm. The police are trained to be violent.
Paramilitary, correct?
And they're taught, yes. And you'd be amazed. All the stuff that they have on, even some benign looking stuff, they've been trained to use it as a weapon. This is my pen. I can gouge you in your throat and take your breath away. This is my badge. I can put it in the side of your eye. This is my key. This key works well if I jab it in your ear. It's amazing the kind of things that they are trained to do when they encounter somebody. All of it involves violence. Very little of it says, hey, whoa, let's settle down for a minute. Let's see if we can't talk through this for just a moment.
Hey, Jason. What's going on,
Eric,
Chef Flag?
No
Good. How are you?
I'm maintaining. Thank God it's Friday.
Right.
Hello,
so you're
Daryl.
here to join us
How are you?
On this topic.
Yeah.
Have we met?
No, I'm seeing your name. I'm hearing what you're discussing and stuff like that.
You're going in and out on me. You're going in and out.
Okay, can you hear me now?
That's better, thank you.
Okay. So the topic is very diverse. I mean, you talk about policing, and I think that a lot of topics that you hit on were nail on the head. But I think that one thing that they do not teach in the police academy is not allowing police to be afraid. Because back in the day, a cop was up there, wouldn't even pull out a gun. He'll shoot a fair one with you. They'll just throw with hands and stuff like that in order to grapple with you and stuff like that. They won't be pulling out a weapon necessarily to try to kill you or try to completely incapacitate you. They'll subdue you to stop you, to get you out of this around situation. And what you was talking about, the police being paramilitarized, that's the doctrine of the day, because the police are becoming secondary, like imported soldiers and stuff like that on civilian grounds. And again, that's the way they're being trained and taught up to be. Unfortunately, there's no kind of workaround with this unless there's some type of training at the academy level to teach how to be a community activist and community type based person, or even come from the community to be able to relate to community. Because a lot of these cops and stuff like that, especially like in Newark, where they have all these white cops come in and stuff, and they actually aggregate them out to other precincts and stuff like that, to the suburban areas. It's almost like you have to do a bid. Similarly, like what you do in the VA hospitals, where they get all these doctors that are in training or residents and stuff, and they come in and they do procedures and stuff like that on these veterans until they can pay off their student loans or get experience up, and then they actually go out to the real world as a kind of a workaround. And they do the same thing with cops. They have a list that you have to qualify on in certain scores, like you have to be in a particular area for a certain amount of time and stuff like that to be considered, unless you have a friend of a friend that could get you into a rural area policing area. You have to go into the inner cities and stuff like that in order to police in the inner cities before you get a chance to go out to the rural areas and stuff like that, into the suburbs. That's evident right here in Orange and stuff like that. I grew up with a lot of Orange police officers that are on the force right now, And I also see a tremendous amount of Caucasian officers. And I'm like, you don't live in Orange. I know you don't live in Orange. And they're just here biding their time and stuff like that, so they can get a posting and stuff like that at a suburban or rural area that's near the area or outside of the area. And we're a training ground. The inner city is a training ground for them to get their policing act together. So it's sad to say, but it's true. Not equipped to do this, they're not able to do it, they're not from the community, so they don't know anything that happens in the community, so they're running scared all the time. And then when they're scared of something, the first thing they do, they're not going to ask any questions, they're going to pull out a gun, and they're going to threaten, and they're going to sit there and try to throw their authority around and stuff like that without really knowing what the whole onus of the situation is, and it's sad.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't even know that was a thing. Right. I know that, you know, cops usually jump on to wherever they're first hired, but I didn't know that that's pretty much like is it mandated that, well, not to say mandated, but like, is it like a rule?
Well, it's part of the procedure process. My uncle was a detective for East Orange, and he was a East Orange police officer for close to 20 years. He actually just ran for sheriff recently in this last election. His name is Barry Jackson. He gave me all types of inside scoop and stuff like that, of how they would do things. And then you hear these cops about how they try to make the board, they're trying to make their tenure up and stuff like that, so they can get into these better areas and stuff like that that are higher paying with less stress. And they're trying to maneuver the system. They're trying to move the system. Unfortunately, it's part of the system ingrained in order to get these cops trained and milled out and stuff like that. They put them in the quote unquote belly of the beast, so they can sit up there and get their experience up, and then they transfer them out. And we're nothing but like kind of like target practice for them. It's sad to say, but it is.
That's a good way to put that.
Yeah, and that's what it is. It's like we're the practice dummies and stuff like that. They sit there and get all their little frustrations out and stuff like that, not knowing what to do and stuff like that, until they can get used to a real world situation. And then when they're calmer and more sedate, and when they actually have some experience about them, they take them out to the suburban rural areas and stuff like that, so they can be like, yes, sir, yes, ma'am. And I'm here to protect and serve the community. But what I hear and stuff like that, it's like keep the gorillas at bay and make sure that the jungle stays quiet. That's the unfortunate side of it, though. So what is this? Is this a primary topic for tonight, or because I saw in the chat about?
Absolutely, we're all about talking about police encounters, and we just watched the video on how a mental health case was handled, and a 14-year-old or a young lady's encounter with the police. So pretty much. She was, I guess, threatening to walk into traffic, and their approach was to lay down on top of her to the point where she couldn't breathe. And, you know, like the whole neighborhood had to come out and tell them to stop. And, you know, it escalates, you know, tasers come out, and, you know, it's just unfortunate, you know, that police are so programmed to be so cut off from humanity.
Yeah.
Like it's just they're not in touch with that side when they have that badge on.
Yeah, but they're not a part of that community. They don't know what's going on.
You know, I have a problem with that. There's a video of the protest in Buffalo, New York. The police are marching down a pavilion. An older white guy, 78 years old, walks up to the police and he wants to give them the helmet back or something. I don't remember what it was. This happened within the last year. One cop knocks this guy to the ground, and he hits his head on the ground, and he's out. There's no question this old man is in distress. As a human being, you want to come to his aid. Mm-hmm. As an officer, you are trained to, and you are compelled to come to his aid. Well, when some other cop went to help him, the first cop would not let the second cop do it. He pushed them away from the old man, and they walked past the old guy. The old guy ended up in the hospital for several weeks with brain damage, and I don't know what the ultimate outcome was. That's not a policing issue as much as that's a human being issue. What sort of person can walk past an old man that you know is in distress? You've seen him bang his head, and he's probably unconscious, and you can march past him, sink and file, and not even look at him.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not a
but
matter of
that's that whole blue wall thing. That's that whole.
that's a
blue
human
wall
thing, man.
silence.
You know, well, let me put it like this,
That's
and maybe
that
you're
whole
right.
thing that they got going on there. That's that whole thing that they're going on. They got
I
that
would-
program
I
mentality.
would like to
you
say
gotta
that
look out
under
for
those
your-
circumstances,
your
I would break
police.
that blue wall. I have a hard
Yeah.
time thinking that I would allow that old man to lay there and suffer. I hope that I'm
And-
right about that. I don't know. I'm not in that position. And I will say this, these cops do have a tough job. They have to make some decisions in a split second. Almost always these decisions involve whether or not to be violent. But at the end of that instant, when you have an opportunity to show some caring, some compassion, some humanity, you walk past an old guy, 80 years old, an octogenarian, laying on the sidewalk with his head,
White supremacy culture, right? White culture. They're so
Well,
caught
it's not
up.
necessarily just necessarily white officers out there. There's black officers and Hispanic officers.
Well, they're roped into the
all types.
whole idea. Like they're roped into
Yeah,
that.
it's a programming. It's a programming.
Yeah.
It's an indoctrination. It's an indoctrination. It's a program system, like you said. They go into the police academy. They're teaching these cops to be afraid. They're not teaching them to be members of the community or police the community. They're teaching them to be afraid. They're teaching them how to shoot first. A prime example, that cop that was on the force for like 30-something years or something, 20-something years, she pulls up to the car, has her hand on the taser.
Yeah.
And then the guy starts to speed up, and instead of pulling the taser, she switches automatically to her handgun and shoots 3 rounds into this gentleman and stuff like that and kills him.
Just for the record, I don't believe any of that.
Yeah,
There's no mistake was made there.
There's no mistake.
way. So,
And it's like the taser, the pistol grip on the taser is completely different from the whatchamacallit. They're completely different from the 9mm and stuff like that. They make it that way on purpose so you have muscle memory, so you could know, like, hey, you know what, this bulky thing is the taser. This slim thing is the 9mm. I know what the difference is. And they train you supposedly to do this, but again, it's that culture that's indoctrinated into them and stuff like that. You have supposedly a veteran that's out there for like 30-something years, and she's pulling a handgun instead of pulling a taser. That has to be something that's ingrained. That's ingrained. That's something that's beyond the whole diaspora and stuff like that of just cops killing cops out there just killing people and stuff like that. That's a mentality. That's an ingrained mentality that's been programmed into it.
Now,
and not to say all cops are bad, because not all cops are
all
bad.
cops are bad. I will say that.
Yeah, not all cops are bad.
I will say that unequivocally. All cops are bad. All slavers are bad. All pimps are bad. All cops are bad. You can't be a good child molester. When you become a cop, you have signed on. You have signed your name in blood to do something that is contrary to what we espouse as the American way. And in order you to keep doing it, you have to be bad.
now,
I think there's some.
Now that I like your theory, Daryl, but I would have to disagree.
I understand that. No, most people don't agree with me. I understand that.
Well, I'm speaking on that being a victim of police brutality. My son's father was shot and killed by police about 6 years ago in upstate New York. That was why my question was directed to you more so than anything too. But you know, with everything going on today, with all the police brutality and the rioting that been going on in the cities and stuff like that, I know I spoke on it, on the police, that not all police are bad, because we do have some police today that are actually out here that likes to really try to help some of us. But just like we're talking about the culture is that blue collar culture.
Well, the question I have is this then. When the cop does something, the quote good cop does something bad, whatever that may be, how many times is that acceptable for him to quote shoot your son's father, or drag this little girl down the street, or step on this guy's throat, or mistake the taser for the 6-shooter? How many times can we accept that as being, well, he's only 1 in a million? Well, tell that to the dead guy.
Mm-hmm. That's
So,
true.
but again, let me say this, and I firmly believe this. Most people disagree with me. I accept that. I have a position that is based on personal experience. I'm sorry. I developed a rash, and I've been scratched. I don't want you to think it's been killing me. I haven't had a shirt on in a week, and this shirt is killing me. I'm sorry. This shirt is killing me. I'm so sorry.
Well, that's the good thing about Zoom. You in your comfort of your own home.
So no, and I do believe the police have a tough job, but they have a job that they know is tough, and they should be prepared for the toughness of it, and they should be trained to deal with all the vagaries of being a police officer. That does not always boil down to a level of violence, and I think that far too often, and it doesn't happen. And again, if you tell me, well, that's only 1 in a million. If you're a cop and you kill somebody, 1 in a million is too many. You're not fixing a carburetor. It's not like you're going to drive down the street and the car's going to cut off. At the end of the day, a person is dead, or a person is arrested, and a person is going to prison. That's a circumstance that is so dehumanizing and so humiliating. And I have been arrested, by the way, several times. There is nothing fun about it, and it scars a person for the rest of his or her life. So we cannot accept that. Oh, it doesn't happen very often. You don't get those. You don't get that one bite law. You don't get that latitude when you're dealing with people's lives and livelihoods and their families.
That's so true.
At the end of the day, I'm sorry, changes nothing.
That's true, and it's crazy because today the police what they're trained to do is to shoot and kill. Their main target, when you look on, even if you go to a shooting range today, your target or the cop's target is what? The head and your stomach and chest area.
Yeah, I always learned that they go for the middle of the chest. That way, if they shoot high, they'll catch you in your face. Or if they shoot low, they'll still catch you in your abdomen. All three are kill spots.
Yeah.
Well, you said that center mass and stuff like that because the biggest part of your body is your chest area and stuff like that. Known for the military, being in the army and stuff like that. That's the way they train and stuff like that as well. And that's the reason why they give police officers automatic weapons and stuff like that. Because back in the day when they used to have revolvers, had the 6 shots and stuff like that. Now you got 17 in the one in the chamber and stuff like that. And you can keep on pulling the trigger like it's a video game and stuff like that. And that's what they used to that mentality of just getting that mentality of just shooting and stuff like that recklessly. That's what I said back in the day. 60s, 70s and stuff like that, cops and stuff like that, if they really wanted to get you and stuff like that, they weren't going to try to shoot you and stuff like that. They'll beat the hell out of you. They'll pull you into the station. They're not going to pull a weapon on you. They're not going to necessarily pull a billy club. They might pull a billy club, but they're not going to shoot and try to kill you. But as the progression of the culture went in and stuff like that, during the 80s and the 90s and stuff like that, that culture in the police academies adopted that shoot, kill, pull out your weapon and stuff like that, and don't put yourself in harm's way and stuff like that. Don't try to police the community. You try to regulate the community the best way you can, and they give them these and pump them up with all these ideals and stuff like that, and give them a weapon, and they come out of academy scared. Somebody says boo to them, they shoot. They see something glimmer and stuff like that, they think it's a weapon, they shoot. You said something the wrong way and stuff like that. Their mentality is either going to snap and stuff like that, they're going to shoot. And that's the unfortunate level of training and stuff like that. And even to go back to the situation we was talking about where this young lady was mentally challenged, that's a systemic thing. That's a systemic thing and stuff that even beyond policing, because they right now in hospitals they don't make money and stuff like that off of people with mental illness issues because they don't have insurance necessarily. So what the hospitals do, they lobby to make sure that people with mental illnesses and stuff that cannot be retained by hospitals and stuff like that. So they put it on the streets. Now you have these people around here dangerous, not getting properly medicated, not being controlled, and not being in environments and stuff like that are productive to them. And stuff like that, and they're being a menace, but they're being a menace and stuff like that. But the way that they own volition and stuff like that, the way they have to carry themselves, and they have nobody looking out for them, so they're automatically another target for these police out here that are trigger happy because they don't have the training to sit there and discover that somebody has any type of mental illness or some type of mental issues and stuff. And again, they go to shoot, and there you go. You got another target that they can practice on.
We have different laws for the police officers when they commit these crimes, because like they were saying with the Derek Chauvin, like he had so much of a record, like we were saying, he had an extensive record of not doing the right thing in cases that it took somebody dying for him to finally, go to jail for his crime. But in the meantime, I'm like, is that I mean, I know there's different rules for different people and stuff, but I'm like, it really truly completely seems like, well, it is not even seem, it is a different set of rules for police officers and even a different jailing system for them. Because even though a lot of people celebrated, oh, he finally going to jail for killing George Floyd and stuff like that, I'm like, I mean, nobody really paid attention to the fact that the police go to a different type of jail than the ones that we're used to knowing about. They have different kind of protection. They have different type of services. They started crime. I mean, it's like Bill Cosby going to jail for them. They have different privileges in jail that our brothers and sisters, when being locked up, have in the prison system.
So true.
So I mean, so is it really a justice being served when they finally be held accountable for taking somebody's life or violating the laws themselves?
At the end of the day, when it comes to a person being dead, there is no justice. Justice is supposed to be a balancing. You can't unkill a guy. You can convict this guy and put him in jail. And Unique, let me just say this. The officer, if he spent the rest of his life in jail, that would not bring back your son's father in any way. That's not justice. If I am emotionally scarred for life and a guy goes to jail or pays a fine, that's not justice. You know, we say justice like that's something that can be achieved, and it can't. We have been taught that this is justice, and we accept that this is justice, but it can never be justice. You know, when you see that your son or your daughter has been beaten and humiliated and dragged and handcuffed, how do you balance that out? There is no way to do it. So no, there is no justice. There should be repercussions for committing a crime. Ideally, there are, but far too often it doesn't happen. And the one thing that I want to impress upon us is this: when we get to see a video of one of these things taking place, it is literally one of a million. How many times does this stuff happen when there's no video there, or the video doesn't make it to the public consumption? You know, so you know this happens thousands of times every day to varying degrees. Now, not everybody is beaten, but you know, we get pulled over for no reason, and we get forced to step out of the car in the rain or in the cold and pull all your documents out, and you know your wife and your children are sitting there looking at you. You're getting rained on, and the cop is calling you stupid because you know, and you try to do the best you can and just say, if I put up with this crap for 5 more minutes, I can get back in the car. And you get back in the car, and then your daughter you've got a 5-year-old kid. How come he made you stand in the rain? How come you got to explain that? You know, there's no justice for that. You cannot even that out ever. You know, I say this: my first encounter with the police was horrible. I was 7 or 8 years old. I lived in East Orange. I went to Columbian High School, Columbian Elementary School. It was on the corner of 4th Avenue and Springdale Avenue. At that time, East Orange was probably at least 50% white, but predominantly white. And there were a few black kids who lived north of Springdale Avenue and Grove Street. And there was a cop on the corner who directed the traffic. And he knew all of the black kids who lived there. After school, I made arrangements to go visit my kids. So I went up to the corner. I was going to cross and head that way. And he grabbed me and said, "Where you going? You can't go down there. You don't live there." Now, this is the 60s, and my mother was very active. It's a free country. I could do what I want to do. I have my rights. I had a big afro at the time, by the way. I don't have to tell you anything. I said to her, "It's a free country. I'm going to cross the street." And the cop grabbed me by my hair and pulled me out of the street and said, "I know all little niggas that live down there. You're not one of them. You're not going that way." And he's holding me by my hair. So I kicked him, not to be violent, but to get this fool to let me go because it was hurting. It turned into a great big thing. The principal goes inside. My mother comes, boom, boom, boom. The cop. At the end of the day, I'm being scolded by the principal because I didn't listen to the policeman's directives, and there's no reason why a person should ever kick a policeman. And I'm sitting there and I'm going, I didn't do anything. I'm the victim here, and I'm the one who's getting in trouble. That was my first encounter with the police, and that may have been the best encounter I've ever had with the police because it has gotten significantly worse over the years. After that event takes place, how does a person come to accept that cop as part of his community? How do those women, when that little girl was being humiliated and defiled, how do they now interact with those police when you see them the next time? How are you going to accept that that cop has your best interest in heart? Why would I talk to that guy about anything? The first thing he said, well, I need your help. The first thing you're not getting is my help. Whatever you're going to get, my help is not in that pile. So let's go from there. So I do. There is certainly a systemic problem that we have to overcome if we are going to be able to interact with the police. I don't think we can at this point. I can't. I'm not interested in it. I tell all of my clients when they're arrested, oh, the police told me this. I said, I don't believe anything any cop ever says about anything. When the cop tells me the sky is blue, I'm convinced it's red. I'm just not believing them. And that's my personal experience as a young man having been arrested several times, and as a criminal defense lawyer in dealing with my clients having been dealing with police. I know people who are cops. They say that they are going to go to court and, quote, test a lie. That's the cop told me this. I'm going to test a lie on the stand. I'm like, you don't have a prayer? We don't have a prayer when that sort of behavior is sanctioned. When you got a video of all these cops brutally beating Rodney King and you let them go, there can't be any justice. There can never be justice under those circumstances. At the end of the day, all they can do, all our system can do is either arrest somebody or give you money. Neither of which will fill that void of having been humiliated.
Not at all.
It doesn't matter how much money it is. It's not going to put that person back in your life. It's not going to make that 13-year-old kid who, if she does have mental disabilities, this event certainly didn't help.
Not at all.
So no, I don't think there is such a thing as justice. Not as our system is configured. No.
But white culture has put a price tag on stuff because Breonna Taylor's family, what they got, $2.something million for Breonna Taylor? That was supposed to be okay, right?
In Minnesota, they gave, what was it, $9 million, $27 million or something?
Yeah.
The first thing they did was they put a camera in that guy's daughter's face and she was crying. $27 million did not dry the tears.
I was about to say that money doesn't give justice, because just like he's saying, how do you explain to a kid that lost their father when they was 3, 4, 5 years old? How do you explain to a kid that's now a teenager that
you can tell it's okay, baby, because we can afford a PlayStation. We don't need a dad.
You know,
what else can you do with
that's
exactly.
The American way. The American way is based on quantification because we're a capitalistic society.
And the American way and capitalism is inherently flawed.
That's right. But they shove that money in your face and say, hey, you know what? We couldn't bring your family member back, but here's this money. And this is your compensation.
Go away and be happy.
Quiet. There's nothing else that you need to say except for that. You have gotten paid. Mm-hmm.
What are you mad about? It's over with. Why are you still angry?
Exactly.
It's resolved.
Exactly.
So now
that's the unfortunate American way.
Now that we spoke on, all this, we saw this video and we've seen countless videos, right? So it's now been mandated that all police officers are to wear their body cams beginning June 1st in New Jersey. So my thing is, now there is a new bill or law that they're putting into place that they're trying to push really quick, and it's bill number 5864, where the police officer is allowed to review the body cam footage before writing their report. What do you guys think about that?
That's sickening, because at the end of the day, just like you said, that is a law that's supposed to be going into place for them to wear cameras. In all reality, they passed that law a while back that all police are supposed to have cameras. So with us knowing now that the police are able to view the footage, that gives them the opportunity to delete any and everything that they want to delete.
Yeah, so and there's also a trick to that too. There's a trick to that too. They actually have been posting this on YouTube and stuff like that, how police officers are playing copyrighted songs while they're being filmed by outside sources and stuff like that. And they play a copyrighted song and stuff like that during like somebody's taping them and they try to post it on YouTube or Facebook. The algorithm on Facebook or YouTube will pick that up and edit it out because they'll think that it's a copyrighted song that they're playing and stuff like that, and they'll take down that footage automatically. They've done it on several occasions and stuff like that. You'll play a song that's popular or whatever and anything like that, and the algorithm on Facebook or YouTube will pick up on it while you're trying to upload it and stuff like that, and will knock off that video. So they're doing all types of sorts of tactics and stuff like that to keep information and stuff like that suppressed any way they possibly can. And this is just another layer of it. It's even to the fact that situation that happened down in I think in South Carolina with the kid was trying to back out of his yard and stuff like that, and they shot him, and the judge held the video and stuff like that for close to like 2 or 3 weeks before they released it to the family so they could review it. They're doing the editing, doing the bait and stuff like that. Things could be altered and changed and stuff like that in a heartbeat. We don't know what's going on. I mean, having the body cam on stuff like that is almost like playing lip service and stuff like that. Say yes, everything that's happening is being documented. But who's the ones that's doing the editing? Who's the ones that's looking at these videos and stuff like that before they're untouched by this is happening? It's not being transmitted live. It's being archived somewhere, and that means that could be altered. It could be tampered with at any time in time, depending on the level of severity of the situation.
Yeah. Because what the state is doing is they're allotting $54 million towards police departments so that they could get body cams and have the technology and have the storage. And so, just like you said, that storage is going into a cloud, right? So who knows who could get access to it? I'm sure that anybody can, and edit it as they please. So yeah. How do you feel about the body? Well, I know body cams are what it is, but viewing the footage beforehand, it just allows the police officer to kind of like write their own narrative. Like they can just change the story. It's as simple as that. Especially if there's no audio.
Exactly.
Especially the point of recording, because remember, police officers have to still press the button. It's not like they're automatically recording when they're going on a call. They have to activate it when they're going on the call. The law is they have to activate it when they're going on a call. But who knows if they're activating it when they're going on the call before they get to the call. Like, is that all stipulated in that bill? I'm not sure. But what I do know is that they can view those videos before.
I just
thank you in fact, I'm sure you're frozen, bro.
Yep. He's frozy.
It's their attempt to try to appease the people, basically. They're making them so-called feel more secure by getting the cameras out there, like the dashboard cameras on the cars that they have.
I think that there has been little to no effort to appease the people in several hundred years. This guy that killed Chauvin, he gets 30 years in jail, and now everything is fine. We're on top of this. We're working this out. Since that time, I don't even know how many times there have been circumstances where there have been recordings of police brutalizing Black people, and how many times that has not been recorded. I don't think there's any effort to appease us, a legitimate effort to appease us. It's an effort to keep us quiet, and we are pretty easily mollified with some money. At the end of the day, I don't know Chauvin, but I don't think that anybody in the world should have been treated like that. At the end of the day, you can say, oh, he had drugs in his system. He's a criminal. He did this. He wouldn't get in the car. So I had to kill him. No, there are other alternatives that come up shorter than killing this man. Certainly not by kneeling on his neck for 9 minutes, while your other cops are saying, hey, ease up off this guy. The thing that I think one of the most painful things I have ever seen, this grown man is laying on the ground calling for his mother. Mm-hmm. This middle-aged man is, I want my mother. Man, and you have to have a certain sort of callousness around your heart not to respond to that. Mm-hmm. It takes a certain type of person to do that job.
I was a part of a training, I guess, workshop last year called Save Our Sons. And the person that hosted, he's from New York. He's like a nonprofit person, organization trying to, help with community activities and bring some awareness to some stuff. But his focus was like something that I had not heard of. And maybe at some point in time in our existence, there was something that the police really were like. I think the Police Athletic League used to be a part of the community back before my time, where they actually interacted with the community. They knew that they lived in the community. They were neighbors with the community. They played at the recreation center with the kids. So the kids really grew up knowing the police as their friend. And so the focus of this organization was to basically bring back that kind of thinking where the police are our friends and to encourage that interaction on a community level. Because I mean, he like I actually talked one-on-one with him because I have a child with ADHD, and I was scared because like we were talking earlier about how police are not trained to handle people with mental illnesses. And so what he advised me to do was to go to my local police station and introduce my son to the police officers, basically making them aware, this is my little brown boy, his name is so-and-so and so-and-so. If you see him, wave at him, say hi, whatever. Keep your presence on a friendly level with him. If you should see him in a bad situation, please don't shoot him first and ask questions later, basically, because you see he's a good kid. He has a good mom that actually has an interest in community and keeping him safe on some level, but he may make some bad decisions along the way. So basically what this organization encourages is that community members take their children and have like events where you take them to the police station or the fire department, whatever, and introduce them to the police officers that work there and let them know their name. Even share a picture, if they have it posted on their information, so they can keep this child in their forefront that this is my child. I care very deeply about this child. Please do not shoot and ask questions later. Kind of conversation, because we care. Just to say that we care about our children, so that we are introducing them to the police officers. So it's not like you see this child as a bad kid and I don't know this child. You actually got to have a conversation with this child. You got to see where they're trying to go with their life, if they have any plans at all to go with their life. But to actually have that conversation, that relationship, like back in the good old days, the 60s and 70s, when the Police Athletic League really existed, so-called, and the police were your next door neighbors, to bring back that type of thinking. I mean, it's a good concept. And I'm like, I have yet to take him to the police station to do this.
They were not no good old days. What good old days?
Well, I can say this. There was a time when I grew up in Orange. We had Mr. Whittle live down the street. He was the police officer. No, Mr. Whittle, we played with his kids. I stay in touch with his kids today. He lived on Century Place. But we did. We had Mr. Whittle, who was a cop in Orange, lived on our block. When I lived in East Orange, we had Mr. Dennis. We went to school with his kids. So I think that's true. I think it's a great idea. I never appreciated that. Take your kids to meet the cops. I mean, I would probably talk to the police in advance. Look, I want to come by next Tuesday. Bring my daughter, bring my son. They want to say hi.
They have a whole community engagement sector for police officers. There's a whole division for that.
But they
what
don't
are
do
they doing?
They don't do
Besides playing basketball here and there, just to take a couple of pictures here and there. What are y'all doing? What are you doing to get to know your community?
Whatever happened to the DARE program? Because I remember when I was in school coming up, we had the DARE program where the cops used to come out and talk to us. Just like you saying, we had the cops that lived up the street, cops that actually took us to our parents when we did something wrong or something like that. Whatever happened to that? Like, it's crazy. And then in reference to what you're saying, Aisha, with taking your children to the police precinct. Now, me personally, I think that's a catch-22, because you could take them to the police precinct and introduce your child to the police, your local police. But every so often, they're hiring new police officers. Every so often, those police officers that you introduce your children to, not always going to be in that in your local
On
police.
that same shift though, because they
No,
be
you
having
gotta
like
worry-
5
you
different
gotta
shifts.
worry about it no matter what. Like it's scary and it's crazy that we have to go through this and we have to face this today or period. Because this has been going on for many, many, many years. It's ridiculous that we have to face this, but there is like I say, it's a catch-22 with taking your children to the police station to introduce them to the police.
Well, you know what I say. Everybody needs some good old racial equity training. They need some of that. They need all of that.
Well, they also need like classes in soft skills. They need classes in humanities. They need several classes. I mean, right now, the main qualifier to get into the police academy is having an associate's degree in like either criminal justice or some type of degree and stuff like that at a minimum. And they think that's a qualifier for your like soft skill sets and for your humanities and stuff like that in order to so you can just focus completely on policing. And that like being in some type of level of community engagement and being able to know the communities that you're in and stuff like that, or even to see those soft skills in practice or see those humanities in practice and during the academy years would be a stepping stone so they can get to
Yeah, we lost you
again.
Yeah,
I mean, there's so many skills. There's so many things that we need to basically either bring back or establish because those soft skills aren't trained at all. So those interactions really need to be a part of the training, and bringing back civics because knowing their rights as kids, they don't know their rights. They just scared because they just scared and they don't know what they should and should not do. No matter what, whether they're teenagers or younger than teenagers, they don't know what they should do when they interact with the police.
And it's so crazy that they took like in schools, they took Black history out of schools because in all reality, and I know me myself, I learned about a lot of our current things that's going on or that happened in school, like the whole Rodney King. I learned that in school. Our kids don't even have the opportunity unless we teaching them. Our kids don't even have the opportunity to even learn that history to know what, to prepare them. Because in our reality, like as I was coming up as a kid, my mom taught us the ways of the world and what was going on in the world. But at the same time, she tried to let us be kids. So she didn't really want to install too much on us because she wanted us to enjoy our youthhood. But I learned a lot in school when it came down to the police brutalities because we watched different movies and the different histories that came along with the police brutality, the slavery and everything like that. These kids don't even have that in schools anymore, and that's the sad part.
And it could have been like just your teacher too, because a lot of I think a lot of schools don't, definitely don't implement Black history outside of what we all know, like the pillars of the community, and it's usually like Martin Luther King.
Well, see, I learned that in high school. We actually had you had your world history and you had Black history.
Mm-hmm.
And world history, you learned everything. Then in Black history, you learned about our Black culture, and that was in high school. That was my freshman year going up. I learned about it.
And likely it's probably not in white high schools because
of course not.
No,
they don't care about us.
They don't care about us. We had the African American Club. We didn't have it in regular education from health for history, but I had the African American Club. That's where I learned all my stuff about Black history.
So I know that I'm definitely not for this body cam footage. Before writing the report, some folks are saying they believe it's good because it'll give the cops a a way of kind of remembering or revisiting what actually happened in the report. I think it gives the opportunity to skew the information.
Mm-hmm.
And definitely not for that. But Daryl, I just wanted to thank you for sharing your expertise and sharing what we should do in case of an encounter with the police. You say comply. I say comply. Pull out your phone. Put it on record video. Since we got that information, thank you, Jason, for sharing that what police are doing is they're playing a song that would be copywritten, so it wouldn't be able to be loaded up on YouTube or Facebook. So just open up your phone, put it on video. Hopefully you have some what is that called? I guess storage left on your phone. Keep your storage open as much as you can, because you never know what's going to happen, right? So on a lighter note, I just wanted to definitely highlight that Parents Engaging Parents is a nonprofit organization. Please donate. You could donate at pepnj.org. Yeah, we need as much help as possible. Right now, Unity in the Community Collective is collecting monies for our 5,000 scholars throughout New Jersey to collect schools, to buy school supplies and backpacks for those kiddos. So to send them back to school all ready to go. Okay, and also we have another parade coming up. We are going to be doing another Unity in the Community parade in Pleasantville, New Jersey. We're going back down South Jersey. So we're going to see you guys down there.
Go Greyhounds.
We're coming back to South Jersey, and we're going to definitely show up and show out. We want to definitely get lots of organizations involved. So if you're interested, please just contact us at contact@pepnj.org. All right, folks. Thank you all. And look, I love that Di James said, thank you for keeping it real. Thank you, Daryl.
Someone has asked, yes.
Yeah, someone did ask a way to get in contact with you, because of course you kept it so real that they really want to stay in contact with this brother who represents other brothers.
I can tell you my office in Mount Holly is at 133 High Street. Zip code is 08060. My email is Daryl Pennington, DARYL PENNINGTON, Daryl Pennington at yahoo.com. That's all one word. In Newark, I'm in the Gateway Center, Suite 2400. My phone number is 609-320-1763. Feel free to call, please.
All right.
Thank you so much. I definitely appreciate it. You will be hearing from me.
Well, thank you for having me. This is I enjoy these
Oh, you a
opportunities.
criminal? Let me find out. You
need representation.
You got to be careful when you say stuff like that. Oh yeah, I'm gonna keep your number. Yeah, just folks get right here. They pay attention to those kind of comments. But no, anyone who wants to reach out, please feel free. I will respond. I respond to everybody within 24 hours, email, text, phone call, and do what I can to help you out.
A lot of people really don't know, like, that there are free services out there, and even how to get in contact with the free services out there for legal representation, and just relying on a public defender, the so-called, we know how the public defenders work.
Well, I can say every county has a bar association. If you ever have any concerns with any sort of legal documents, buying a house, selling a boat, signing a lease, making out a will, I would suggest anybody who's not sure to start with the County Bar Association, and they can direct you in some direction. If you have a question, feel free to call me. I mean, I'll answer your question the best I can. I don't know anything about all that stuff, but I'll do the best I can to direct you to someone who does. And that's not entirely true. I spent the first 5 years of my career doing civil litigation as well, civil rights and all that kind of stuff, as well as criminal.
Mm-hmm. All right. I was just I gave you a shout out, Chef Jason, for giving us that tidbit on the copywritten songs that are played. So I suggest everybody please just pull out your phone, put it on video.
Now, when it's time to get fed, we need to reach out to Jason, right?
Yes, yes.
Right, Chef Jason. All right.
That's
Chef Jason.
what I do. That's
He's
what I do.
multi-talented.
All right.
All right, folks. Thank you for tuning in. Have a good night.
Thank you for
All right,
having me.
have a good
Everyone,
day.
please be safe and healthy.
Enjoy your weekend and these summer days.
Definitely.